Right, what have I got today? It's a big one. Are you ready? Boosh! Right, it's quite a heavy one, even though this is the smaller of the available sets of these. This is the 9-piece. I think you can get an 18-piece. In fact, there's a couple of 18 pieces and a couple of 9 pieces. It sounds like a KFC meal list, but it's not. Okay, so this is the Sabrecut Extreme. In fact, I won't even fit in the frame here. So what I'll do is I'll quickly show you the box whilst I describe this. So this is the Sabrecut Extreme, sorry, not Extreme, it sounds like a horror film. Chrome vanadium steel, that is the coating. It is an S2 steel, but I will cover that. Designed it, I get annoyed by this, designed in the UK, made in Taiwan. Don't care about that, I just want to know where it's manufactured. Yes, Taiwan's a step up from some of the general manufacturing in China. And again, I've got loads of stuff from China, there's nothing wrong with that. But at least they're putting that in big text. And it's not a tiny little thing right down the bottom. You've got to get a microscope, or some of the scanning electron microscope to see it. And then there's all the bits and pieces at the back. If you want to read that, you can, but I will go through them all in good time. There you go. S2 steel, like I said, heat treated chrome vanadium, so there is a hardness rating on this, and I've got the Rockwell rating, and I will go over that. Keep it rich, your children, in case they get into DIY or whatever. And then Sabrecut.com, right? Boring. You don't really want to see the box. You want to see what is actually in here, and there you go. Right. Get this open. Right. Why have I got this? Well, at work, I'll show you. Here's the item itself, but at work, I've got a couple of sets of these Torx keys. I also have 1/4 inch and precision bits which do Torx, and I use them more and more often these days, I would say. Now, generally, if I'm using the larger diameter ones, if I was up to this diameter and above, I would generally be using an impact driver or some sort of driver or a ratchet or something like that. But when you're just doing something small and fine, this is fine. This is a short set from Vera. It's been great. I've had no problems, and it comes with the magnet in, so you can magnetize them and then demagnetize them on the other side and all that. And it opens like that, and I've had no problems with it. And these have a ball end or diamond end, whatever you want to call it there, so you can get in and use different angles. Very, very important. I had I was working in it was actually a vehicle last week with a colleague of mine, and I would not have been able to open there was 4 Torx screws, and I would not have been able to get in without the ability to do this at an angle. I would have had to dismantle most of the vehicle to get, or take the entire box out. So I like that as a feature. I know some people say, well, yeah, but if it's a borehole or a security one, you lose that ability. I don't care, because that to me is necessary, and you can put the holes in the other end. There, you see them? So you can do that. So anyway, right, that's just to give you a bit of background. So I saw this and I thought, you know what, I haven't got enough in the house, so I'll get a quick set for the house. And these were on special offer, dirt cheap, so I thought, I'm going to get these. I've got quite a few bits and pieces from Sabrecut. I've got little mini ratchets and bits and all sorts of stuff. Never had any problem with them. I've actually got some masonry bits which I was very impressed with, and they don't fall to bits. So very, very good company that so far that I've dealt with. If you disagree with that, stick it down below, because I want to know about it and help everyone out here on the channel. If they're a load of rubbish, let me know. But I picked this up. Like I say, there are various sets. So there's a 9-piece, and I believe there is an 18-piece, and they come in 2 different versions. So this is the chrome vanadium. There's a chrome vanadium in the 9 and the 18, and you have a black oxide. The black oxide just adds a sacrificial layer, and it looks physically black, and it protects from corrosion, things like that. But you could argue that this has chrome in, and that has its own corrosion protection anyway. So I think this is more than enough for me. I'm not working in a marine environment, and I'm not working in, steamy Mississippi or wherever, where you have really big problems with humidity and things like that. And it depends on the environment you're working in. Okay, so I'm pretty impressed with these so far. I've used them, what's the date today? I've used them for nearly 6 days, almost 6 days, and I've been quite impressed with them. I've only used them around the house. I haven't taken them to work, because these are for the house, but I'm well aware of how to use Torx and what the purpose of them is. So this is the 9-piece. Comes with this silicone holder, so that there, even though it sounds like plastic, it's actually soft. So look, I can get my thumb and push it in. See that? See the mark there? So it's like a soft silicone. I quite like that. I've never really had any problems with the Vera ones, although I wish this was better. Look, you see how that's slightly opening? I wish that was more secure, and it's not. I could redesign it and modify this and make it like that, but I shouldn't have to do that. It should come working out the box. But not that I've had a problem. These small ones go in the back panel of my Vito Pro, so I don't really care. They don't move, and then I can shove them in a pocket while I'm busy. But silicone holder has been fine, and then it pops through like that, so you just open it by hand, and then it flips open, and then you would have that on the table, or I would anyway, I'd have it on the table, and then I know with whatever equipment I'm working with which colours. So for me, I know that the majority of my time I'll be using, I very rarely use the 8, but I'll generally use that light green, the sort of pea green, and the yellow. Sometimes I'll use the purple, but I can just take the colours that I know with the machinery that I'm working on. I'll go, well, I know for this I need a purple and the bright green, and I'll take them and I can swap between them instead of having to scrutinize and go, right, what's this again? Get the glasses out. It's a 10. Is that a 15? I like the color system. I realize it you know, some people think it's a gimmick. I personally, it saves me time. I can just quickly reach for things that I want. So that with that in mind, these have that, and I'll pull one out. I'll pull out one of the larger ones so we can get a nice look at what the head looks like. So let's pull out this orange one here. Okay, so I think this is a T40 off the top of my head. Does it say anywhere there? There. So you can see on there, if I get the focus, sorry, T40. And you can see it also has a grip on it. Now, as well as this plastic here, which is, you know, solvent resistant and stuff like that. You don't have to worry about oils and things getting on it. It has this grip to it. So look, in fact, I'll run my fingernail over it. Hear that? So it's quite pronounced. It's not knurling in a traditional sense, but it's just enough. So I quite like that. I don't have that on this, but it's not the end of the world, because sometimes I'd be wearing gloves anyway. So it depends what you're going to be wearing and what you're going to be doing. And you could argue, well, Torx-wise, these ones are better anyway. Yes, these are the shorter ones. You can get longer ones, but generally, the longer the lever, obviously, as you know from basic physics, the more force you're able to apply more easily anyway. So that's quite important. But you'll notice all of these do not have the security hole in them, bore hole or whatever you want to call them. So we'll just look at them. None of them have the security hole in. So if you're working with anything that has a security hole, and I see quite a lot of stuff now does, you may want to avoid them. See, all the Vera stuff does, right down to that one, which is, that's a Torx 10. So below the Torx 10 it doesn't. And of course these have the beautiful ends where you can angle them, not quite 45 degrees, maybe it's a little bit less, but if you need to work at that angle for clearance issues, you can still do that. I love that. Okay, so let's talk about what you're actually getting here. So the Rockness, well, the HRC claim from them is, and I've got no way of testing this, I don't have the equipment or a little thing to press in, between 58 and 60. So way high up there, pretty good. Not too brittle, I would presume, but it's hardness of a level where you're not going to have to say, right, I've used these once, right, go back to the dollar store and get another set. You know, when you buy stuff on the cheap and it doesn't last, bits that don't last and the faulty bits, the grind away. I've had zero issues with these, especially my hex ones, which I put a hell of a lot of force in. I mean, they are hex plus, that's something out of the scope of this review, but again, all the Vera stuff has been brilliant. Sabrecut Extreme again, I've never had any problems with them yet, even though they are cheaper, which makes me suspicious, I think. So how are they so much cheaper? I mean, you could argue, well, these are made in Taiwan, but in that vein, you could say, well, a lot of the Vera stuff is made in other parts of Europe, not Germany, even though it's a German tool company. So 58 to 60 on that. S2 steel, and this is a chrome vanadium mix in there, which means you are getting some sort of protection on there. And you can see it's got a slight finish on it. It's not like just prime metal there. You can see it's almost like, it's not a stone wash. It looks like they've given it some sort of surface there. I'll try and get a close-up shot of it there. There you go. And then the heads themselves, they look pretty good, decent. They're slightly rounded off at the end there, as you can see. I don't think these are holding function ones. You can get the holding function ones where there's a slight taper to them. I'm not seeing that yet, even though on their own literature they're saying these grip better. Okay, better than what? Unless they provide what they're better as, I can't tell you whether that's true or not. So I'm telling you what they're saying, but I'm not making that claim myself. So positives and negatives on this. So the pros, price, much cheaper than the Vera, but you're not getting the ball end. They're not security, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, these are like an oxide effect, but I like chrome stuff. You could argue some chrome stuff gets slightly less grip. It's irrelevant for me anyway. It's irrelevant on a Torx. Seat it properly. Make sure you've got enough downward positive pressure there, and then do your work. And don't do it lazily where it's going to cam out and stuff. You're generally not going to get cam out on a Torx anyway if you're doing it properly and at the right angles. Comes with the coloured handles, which for me is a big thing. I'll show you this while I'm talking about it. That's quite important. I'll give you a close-up of what they look like. And they've even got grips on, which is one level higher than the Vera. And it's a good strong material. It's not going to fall to bits. These are nice and long, so you can get more torque on there. Chrome vanadium, and it's an S2 steel. You know, pretty good. You could argue, okay, cons, right? There's no magnetizer, which you would get on something like the Vera. There isn't. I've had a good look. There is a hole through here, but you would use that for attachments and hanging it and things like that. No ball ends, no security hole. Made in Taiwan. But for the price, I think there's a pretty good fit and finish. Is beautiful. I'll show you the ends of more of them there. So if we look at that one there, because I like to get lots of nice, good close-ups of the tools in 4K, so people can look at that and go, I want to buy that, or I don't want to buy that. So get a good look at that quality there. And I'll show you a smaller one. And then we'll go through them there like that, focusing in. They're all pretty decent. I've not seen a single one with any folds over or burrs. That's the classic thing. If you see burrs, then you think, oh, okay, here we go, not strong enough or cheap rubbish. Not the case. Very impressed with them so far. I'll show you the other ends. There you go. And then down here on the smaller one, let's get a close look at that. No problems. Okay, so I try to keep this quick, but as usual, it's probably over about 10 minutes. I need to give this a mark. I've only used it in the house for, what's the day? So at least, well, almost 6 days in hours terms anyway. So I would say I'm going to give these, for the price, I'm going to give them a 7. I wish they did a set with the security holes in. Yes, you can get the bigger sets, but I mean, how many do you need? And for me, I don't need the bigger sets because I've got an impact driver with a load of, you know, impact bits, normal bits, S2 bits, chrome bits, also, you name it, I've got them. So for me, it's not really an issue. Maybe it's if you're doing a specific job and you think, well, okay, that makes more of a sense to you, then that's something you need to look at. So pretty good, impressed. I'll show you quickly what else is on the box there. I mean, I showed you at the start of the video. So high quality S2 steel, yes, I've covered that. Long for greater torque, yes. Heat treated chrome, and again, I give you the hardness rating 58 to 60. Silicone holder, yes. A hanging hole, you do, just which is there. And what else are they saying? And there's the colours. So you were getting a, just so you know, you were getting a T10, sorry, Torx 10, 15, 20, 25, 27, 30, 40, 45, 50. And now obviously if you need a greater variety and more granularity there, you're going to have to go for the 18 piece, but they're much bigger and heavier. So how big's your bag or how big is your tool drawer? That's what you need to think of. Anti-rust coating, yeah, the chrome vanadium there. And key grips with extra reach, perfect. Okay, so boom, right, I'll give these an easy 7, but again, there's a few little things I would probably change for a start. Do an offer with a ball end and maybe it's a holding function or something like that. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Okay, so at least a 7, maybe it's a 7.5. I'll let you get on with your day. Goodbye.